Hello. Hello, Maitre. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you. So,
Yes,
how
sir.
are you doing?
I'm doing good, sir.
Good. All the best.
मैं अभी सर धमारामा में ही हूँ.
Is it?
Yes, sir.
अच्छा. ध्यान कर रहा?
मैं ध्यान भी कर रहा हूँ, अपनी पढ़ाई भी चलती जा रही है. तो मैंने बोला यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा ध्यान और लगेगा.
एक लोग भी कर रहा है वो जो BA?
हाँ जी सर, मेरे असाइनमेंट्स वगैरह कर रहा हूँ, उसी में चल रहा है मेरी मेहनत.
Very good. Very good.
Yes.
Wish you all the best. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
नमस्ते अनीश जी, राजेंद्र जी, चार्मी. Namaste to everybody.
नमस्ते सर.
नमस्ते सर.
नमस्कार.
सर कहीं और बैठे हैं आप?
जी, अभी आजकल हम नोएडा आ गए हैं. कुछ आवश्यकता थी तो यहाँ. भगवा अरहं सम्मा संबुद्धो साक्षातो येन भगवता धम्मः सुपटिपन्नो यस्य भगवतो सावक संघो तमयं भगवन्तं सधम्मं ससंघं इमे सकारे यथारहन्नारो पितेहि अभिपूजयामः साधुनो भन्ते भगवा शुचिरपरिनिब्बतोऽपि पश्चिमादनतानुकम्पमानसा इमे सक्कारे दुर्गतपनाकारभूते पट्यनातु अम्हाकं दीघ्रतं हिताय सुखाय अरहं सम्मा संबुद्धो भगवा बुद्धं भगवन्तं अभिवादे साक्षातो भगवता धम्मो धम्मं नमस्सामि सुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संघो संघं नमामि. हनुमान् बुद्धस्य भगवतो पम्पभाग्नमकारं करोमसे नमो तस्य भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्य नमो तस्य भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्य नमो तस्य भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्य हनुमान् बुद्धानुसतिनायं करोमसे तं कोपन भगवन्तम् एवं कल्याण कीर्तिस्तु अभुगतो इति पिसो भगवा अरहं सम्मा सम्बुद्धो विद्याचरण संपन्न सुगतो लोकविदु अनुत्तरो पुरिसधम्मसा सत्ता देव मनुस्सान् बुद्धो भगवाति हनुमान् बुद्धाभिगीतिं करोमसे बुद्धवारहन्तवर्ता द्विगुणाभियुतो श्रद्धाभिज्ञानकरुणा हि समपततो भूदेशियो सुजनतं कमलं वसुरो वन्दाम्यहं तमरणं शिरसा जिनेन्दं बुद्धो यो सम्भपानिनं शरणं खेममुत्तमं पठमानुसतिष्ठानं वन्दामि तं शिरेणहम् बुद्धस्मि दासो बुद्धो मे सामिकेश्वरो बुद्धस्सहं नियादेमि शरीरं जीवितं चिदं वन्दन्तोऽहं चरिष्यामि बुद्धस्यैव सुबोधितं नास्ति मे शरणं अन्यत् बुद्धो मे शरणं वरम् एतेन सच्चवज्जेन वड्डेऽहं सत्तु शासने बुद्धं मे वन्दमानेन यं पुण्यं प्रसुतं यदा तब्बेऽपि अन्तरायामि माहेशं तस्य तेजसा धम्मानुसतिनायं करोमसे साक्षातो भगवता धम्मो सन्दिट्ठिको अकालिको एहि पस्सिको पनयिको पच्चत्तं वेदितव्यो विඤ्ඤुहीति हनुमान् धम्माभिगीतिं करोमसे साक्षातादिगुणयोगवसे सेयो यो मग्गपाकपर्यत्ति विमुखभेदो धम्मो कुलोकपतन तदधारि धारि वन्दामहं तमरं वरदमेतं धम्मो यो सम्भपानिनं शरणं खेममुत्तमं द्वितीयानुसतिष्ठानं वन्दामि तं शिरेणहम् धम्मस्मि दासो धम्मो मे सामिकेश्वरो धम्मस्सहं नियादेमि शरीरं जीवितं चिदं वन्दन्तोऽहं चरिष्यामि धम्मस्येव सुधम्मतं नास्ति मे शरणम् अन्यत् धम्मो मे शरणं वरम् एतेन सच्चवज्जेन वत्तेऽहं सत्तु शासने धम्मं मे वन्दमानेन यं पुण्यं पशुतं यदा सभ्येऽपि अन्तरायां माहेशुं तस्य तेजसा
આપણે ટ્યુબલ વાળા જે તમે રવિરાજના ઓફર કરો છો એ નહીં ના યાર Taiwan it's nice અને જે બગેટ છે તો
Kindly keep your mics muted. Kindly keep your mics muted, please. Anmayang Sanghanusatinayam Karumase Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Ujupatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Nyayapatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Samiti Patipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Yadidam Chattari Purisa Yuga Atta Purisa Bungala Esu Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Ahuneyo Pahune Dakkine Anjali Karaniyo Anuttarang Punyaketang Lokasati Anmayang Sanghavigitim Karomase Saddhamajo Supatipati Gunadiyuto Yo Attavidho Arya Punga Sangha Setho Siladi Dhamma Pavara Sayakaya Chitto Vandame Ham Tamari Ganam Susuddham Sanghoyo Sabba Paninam Saranam Khemamuttamam Tatyana Satittana Vandami Tang Sirenam Sanghasasmi Dasocha Sangho Me Sami Kesaro Sanghasaham Niyademi Shariram Jeevitam Chidam Vandantoham Charisami Sanghasopatipannatam Natti me saranang anyat Sangho me saranang varam Etena Satchavajjen Vandeyam Sattu Sasane Dhangang me vandamanena Yam punyam pasutam eda Sabbepi antarayami Mahesum tasya tejasa Kaina vachya Sanghe kupam paktam Sangho patiganat vachit Kalantare samvaritam asanghe. You want to sit? Keep the door closed. आज महाचंद्र तेरा भोजन का सुनेंगे।
Invited me to stay here. I'm not an invitation.
තස් භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස් භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස් භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස මහා චුන්දතේර බුද්ධං පරිත්තං එවං මේ සුතං ඒකං සමයං භගවා රාජගහේ විහෙරති වේලුවනේ කලන්දක නිවාපේ තේන කෝපන සමයේන භගවා ආබාධිකෝ හෝති දුක්ඛිතෝ බාලහ ගිලානෝ අතකෝ ආයස්මා මහාචුන්දෝ සායන්හ සමයං පතිසල්ලානා උට්ඨිතෝ යේන භගවා තේනුපසංකමි උපසංකමිත්වා භගවන්තං අභිවාදිත්වා ඒකමන්තං නිසීදී ඒකමන්තං නිසින්නං කෝ ආයස්මන්තං මහාචුන්දං භගවායි තදවෝච පටිභන්තු තං චුන්ද බොජ්ජංකාති සත්තිමේ භන්තේ බොජ්ජංගා භගවතා සම්මදක්ඛාතා භාවිතා බහුලී කතා අභිඤ්ඤාය සංබෝධාය නිබ්බානාය සංවත්තන්ති කතමේ සත්ත සති සංබොජ්ජංගෝ කෝ භන්තේ භගවතා සම්මදක්ඛාතෝ භාවිතෝ බහුලී කතෝ අභිඤ්ඤාය සංබෝධාය නිබ්බානාය සංවත්තති ධම්මවිචය සංබොජ්ජංගෝ කෝ භන්තේ භගවතා සම්මදක්ඛාතෝ භාවිතෝ බහුලී කතෝ අභිඤ්ඤාය සංබෝධාය නිබ්බානාය සංවත්තති විරිය සංබොජ්ජංගෝ කෝ භන්තේ භගවතා සම්මදක්ඛාතෝ භාවිතෝ බහුලී කතෝ අභිඤ්ඤාය සම්බෝධාය නිබ්බානාය සංවත්තති පීති සංබොජ්ජංගෝ කෝ භන්තේ භගවතා සම්මදක්ඛාතෝ භාවිතෝ බහුලී කතෝ අභිඤ්ඤාය සම්බෝධාය නිබ්බානාය සංවත්තති පස්සද්ධි සම්බොජ්ජංගෝ කෝ භන්තේ භගවතා සම්මදක්ඛාතෝ භාවිතෝ බහුලී කතෝ අභිඤ්ඤාය සම්බෝධාය නිබ්බානාය සංවත්තති සමාධි සම්බොජ්ජංගෝ කෝ භන්තේ භගවතා සම්මදක්ඛාතෝ භාවිතෝ බහුලී කතෝ අභිඤ්ඤාය සංබෝධාය නිබ්බානාය සංවත්තති උපේක්ඛා සම්බොජ්ජංගෝ කෝ භන්තේ භගවතා සම්මදක්ඛාතෝ භාවිතෝ බහුලී කතෝ අභිඤ්ඤාය සංබෝධාය නිබ්බානාය සංවත්තති ඉමේ කෝ භන්තේ සත්තබොජ්ජංගා භගවතා සම්මදක්ඛාතා භාවිතා බහුලී කතා අභිඤ්ඤාය සම්බෝධාය නිබ්බානාය සංවත්තන්ති තක්ඛචුන්ද බොජ්ජංගා තක්ඛචුන්ද බොජ්ජංකාති ඉදමෝ ඡායස්මා මහාචුන්දෝ සමනුඤ්ඤෝ සත්තාහෝසි උට්ඨාහිච භගවා තම්හාපාධා තථා පහේනෝ ච භගවතු සෝ ආපාධෝ අහෝසීති ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන සොත්ථිතේ හෝතු සබ්බදා ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන සොත්ථිතේ හෝතු සබ්බදා ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන සොත්ථිතේ හෝතු සබ්බදා සාධු සාධු සාධු
We will now listen to the second part of the Ajahn Chah Deshna, wholehearted training.
This is the 52nd to become a monk. For a while and said, "This is not my place." He told this to the local people. Another Ajahn came to stay here for a while too. And left, but I remained. In those days, this forest was really remote. Again, I have to forbid them to chat. I don't know what they need to talk about. When they've eaten their fill, they become heedless because of the pleasure they feel. I keep on saying, when you come back from the alms round, don't talk. If someone asks why you don't want to talk, I tell them, my hearing is bad. Otherwise, it becomes like a pack of barking dogs. Chattering brings about emotions, and you can even end up in a fist fight, especially at that time of the day when everyone's hungry. The dogs are hungry, and the defilements are active. This is what I've noticed. People don't enter the practice wholeheartedly. I've seen it changing over the years. Those who trained in the past got some results and can take care of themselves. But now, hearing about the difficulties would scare people away. It's too hard to conceive of. If you make things easy, then everyone's interested. But what's the point? The reason we were able to realize some benefit in the past is that everyone trained together wholeheartedly. The monks who lived here then really practiced endurance to the utmost. We saw things through together, from the beginning to the end. They have some understanding about the practice. After several years of practicing together, I thought it would be appropriate to send them out to their home villages to establish monasteries. Those of you who came later can't really imagine what it was like for us then. I don't know who to talk to about it. The practice was extremely strict. Patience and endurance were the most important things we lived by. No one complained about the conditions. If we only had plain rice to eat, no one complained. We ate in complete silence, never discussing whether or not the food was tasty. Borapet was what we had for our hot drink. One of the monks went to central Thailand and drank coffee there. Someone offered him some to bring back here. So we had coffee once. But there was no sugar to put in it. No one complained about that. Where would we get sugar? So we could say we really drank coffee without any sugar to sweeten the taste. We depended on others to support us. We wanted to be people who were easy to support. So of course, we didn't make requests of anyone. Like that, we were continually doing without things and enduring whatever conditions we found ourselves in. One year, the lay supporters, Mr. Puang and Mrs. Deng, came to be ordained here. They were from the city and had never lived like this, doing without things, enduring hardship, eating as we do, practicing under the guidance of an Ajahn, and performing the duties outlined in the rules of training. But they heard about their nephew living here, so they decided to come and be ordained. As soon as they were ordained, a friend was bringing them coffee and sugar. But they were living in the forest to practice meditation. But they had the habit of getting up early in the morning and making milk coffee to drink before doing anything else. So they stopped their kutis. We would have our morning chanting and meditation, then immediately the monks would prepare to go out for alms. So they didn't have a chance to make coffee. After a while, it started to sink in. Mr. Puang would pace back and forth, thinking about what to do. He didn't have anywhere to make his coffee, and no one was coming to make it and offer it to him. So he ended up bringing it all to the monastery kitchen and leaving it there. Coming to stay here, actually seeing the conditions in the monastery and the way of life of meditation monks, really got him down. He was an elderly man, an important relative to me. That same year he disrobed. It was appropriate for him since his affairs were not yet settled. After that, we first got ice here. We saw some sugar once in a while too. Mrs. Deng had gone to Bangkok. When she talked about the way we lived, she'd start crying. People who hadn't seen the life of meditation monks had no idea what it was like. Eating once a day? Was that making progress or falling behind? I don't know what to call it. On alms round, people would make little packages of chili sauce to put in our bowls in addition to the rice. Whatever we got, we'd bring it back, share it out and eat. Whether we had different items that people liked or whether the food was tasty or not was never something we discussed. We just ate to be full and that was it. It was really simple. There were no plates or bowls. Everything went into the alms bowl. Nobody came here to visit. At night, everyone went to their kutis to practice. Even the dogs couldn't bear to stay here. The kutis were far apart and far from the meeting place. After everything was done at the end of the day, we separated and entered the forest to go to our kutis. That made the dogs afraid. They wouldn't have any safe place to stay. So they would follow the monks into the forest, but when they went up into their kutis, the dogs would be left alone and felt afraid. So they would try to follow another monk, but that monk would also disappear into his kuti. So even the dogs couldn't live here. This was our life of practicing meditation. I thought about this sometimes. Even the dogs can't bear it. But still, we live here. Pretty extreme. It made me a little melancholy too. All kinds of obstacles. We lived with fever, but we faced death, and we all survived. Beyond facing death, we had to live with difficult conditions such as poor food, but it was never a concern. When I look back to the conditions at that time compared to the conditions we have now, they're so far apart. Before, we never had bowls or plates. Everything was put together in the alms bowl. Now, that can't be done. So if 100 monks are eating, we need 5 people to wash the dishes afterwards. Sometimes they're still washing up when it's time for the Dhamma talk. This kind of thing makes for complications. I don't know what to do about it. I'll just leave it to you. You can use your own wisdom to consider. It doesn't have an end. Those who like to complain will always find something else to complain about, no matter how good the conditions become. So the result is that the monks have become extremely attached to flavors and aromas. Sometimes I overhear them talking about their ascetic wandering. Oh boy, the food is really great there. I went too long to the south by the coast. Oh, I ate lots of shrimp. I ate big ocean fish. This is what they talk about. When the mind is taken up with such concerns, it's easy to get attached and immersed in desire for food. Uncontrolled minds are roaming about and getting stuck in sights, sounds, smells, tastes, physical sensations and ideas, and practicing Dhamma becomes difficult. It becomes difficult for an Ajahn to teach people to follow the right way when they're attached to tastes. It's like raising a dog. If you just feed it plain rice, it'll grow strong and healthy. But give it some tasty curry on top of its rice for a couple of days, and after that, it won't look at the plain rice anymore. Sights, sounds, smells, and tastes are the undoing of Dhamma practice. They can cause a lot of harm. If each one of us does not contemplate the use of the 4 requisites, robes, alms food, dwelling, and medicines, the Buddha's way cannot flourish. You can look and see this. However much material progress and development there is in the world, the confusion and suffering of humans increase right along with it. And after it goes on for some time, it's almost impossible to find a solution. Thus I say that when you go to a monastery, you see the monks, the temple, and the kutis, but you don't see the Buddha sasana. The sasana is in decline like this. It's easy to observe. The sasana, meaning the genuine and direct teaching that instructs people to be honest and upright, to have loving kindness towards each other, has been lost, and turmoil and distress are taking its place. Those who went through the years of practice with me in the past have still maintained their diligence, but after 25 years here, I see how the practice has become slack. Now people don't dare push themselves and practice too much. They're afraid. They fear it'll be extreme self-mortification. In the past, we just went for it. Sometimes monks fasted for several days or a week. They wanted to see their minds, to train their minds. If it's stubborn, you whip it. Mind and body work together. When we're not yet skilled in practice, if the body's too fat and comfortable, the mind gets out of control. When a fire starts and the wind blows, it spreads the fire and burns the house down. It's like that. Before, when I talked about eating little, sleeping little, and speaking little, the monks understood and took it to heart. but now such talk is likely to be disagreeable to the minds of practitioners. We can find our way. Why should we suffer and practice so austerely? It's the extreme of self-mortification. It's not the Buddha's path. As soon as anyone talks like this, everyone agrees. They're hungry. So what can I say to them? I keep on trying to correct this attitude, but this is the way it seems to be now. So, all of you, please make your minds firm and strong. Today you've gathered from different branch monasteries to pay your respects to me as your teacher, to gather as friends in the Dhamma, so I'm offering some teaching about the path of practice. The practice of respect is a supreme Dhamma. When there is true respect, there'll be no disharmony. People will not fight and kill each other. Paying respects to a spiritual master, to our preceptors and teachers, causes us to flourish. The Buddha spoke of it as something auspicious. People from the city may like to eat mushrooms. They ask, where do the mushrooms come from? Someone tells them they grow in the earth. So they pick up a basket and go walking out into the countryside, expecting the mushrooms will be lined up along the side of the road for them to pick. But they walk and walk, climbing hills and trekking through the fields without seeing any mushrooms. A village person has gone picking the mushrooms before and knows where to look for them. He knows which part of the forest to go to. But the city folk only have the experience of seeing mushrooms on their plate. They hear they grow in the earth and get the idea that they will be easy to find. But it doesn't work out that way. Training the mind in samadhi is like this. We get the idea it'll be easy, that when we sit, our legs hurt, our back hurts, we feel tired, we get hot and itchy. Then we start to feel discouraged, thinking that the samadhi is as far away from us as the sky from the earth. We don't know what to do and become overwhelmed by the difficulties. But if we can receive some training, it'll get easier, little by little. So you who come here to practice samadhi and experience it as being difficult, I had my troubles with it too. I trained with an Ajahn, and when we were sitting, I'd open my eyes to look. Oh, is Ajahn ready to stop yet? I'd close my eyes again and try to bear it a little longer. I felt like it was going to kill me, and I kept opening my eyes. But he looked so comfortable sitting there. 1 hour, 2 hours. I would be in agony, but the Ajahn didn't move. So after a while, I got to fear the sittings. When it was time to practice samadhi, I'd feel afraid. When we're new to it, training in samadhi is difficult. Anything is difficult when we don't know how to do it. This is our obstacle. But training at it, this can change. That which is good can eventually overcome and surpass that which is not good. We tend to become faint-hearted as we struggle. This is a normal reaction, and we all go through it. So it's important to train for some time. It's like making a path through the forest. At first, it's rough going, with a lot of obstructions. But returning to it again and again, we clear the way. After some time, we remove the branches and stumps, and the ground becomes firm and smooth from being walked on repeatedly. Then we have a good path for walking through the forest. This is what it's like when we train the mind. Keeping at it, the mind becomes illumined. For example, we country people grow up eating rice and fish. Then when we come to learn Dhamma, we're told to refrain from harming. We should not kill living creatures. What can we do then? We feel we're really in a bind. Our market is in the fields. If the teachers are telling us not to kill, we won't eat. Just this much and we're at our wits' ends. How will we feed ourselves? There doesn't seem to be any way for us rural people. Our marketplace is the field and the forest. We have to catch animals and kill them in order to eat. I've been trying to teach people ways to deal with this issue for many years. It's like this. Farmers eat rice. For the most part, people who work in the fields grow and eat rice. So, what about a tailor in town? Does he eat sewing machines? Does he eat cloth? Let's just consider this first. You're a farmer, so you eat rice. If someone offers you another job, will you refuse saying, I can't do it, I won't have rice to eat? Matches that you use in your home, are you able to make them? You can't. So, how do you come to have matches? Is it only the case that those who can make matches have matches to use? What about the bowls that you eat from? Here in the villages, does anyone know how to make them? Do people have them in their houses? So, where do you get them from? There are plenty of things that we don't know how to make, but still we can earn money to buy them. This is using our intelligence to find a way. In meditation, we also need to do this. We find ways to avoid wrongdoing and practice what is right. Look at the Buddha and his disciples. Once they were ordinary beings, but they developed themselves to progress through the stages of stream entry on up to Arahant. They did this through training. Gradually, wisdom grows. A sense of shame towards wrongdoing comes about. I once taught a sage. He was a lay patron who came to practice and keep precepts on the observance days, but he would still go fishing. I tried to teach him further, but couldn't solve this problem. He said that he didn't kill fish. They simply came to swallow his hook. I kept at it, teaching him until he felt some contrition over this. He was ashamed of it, but he kept doing it. Then his rationalization changed. He would put the hook in the water and announce, "Whichever fish has reached the end of its karma to be alive, come and eat my hook. If your time has not yet come, do not eat my hook." He'd changed his excuse, but still the fish came to eat. Finally, he started looking at them, their mouths caught on the hook, and he felt some pity. But he still couldn't resolve his mind. "Well, I told them not to eat the hook if it wasn't time. What can I do if they still come?" And then he'd think, "But they're dying because of me." He went back and forth on this until finally he could stop. But then there were the frogs. He couldn't bear to stop catching frogs to eat. "Don't do this," I told him. "Take a good look at them. Okay, if you can't stop killing them, I won't forbid you, but please just look at them before you do that." So he picked up a frog and looked at it. He looked at its face, its eyes, its legs. "Oh man, it looks just like my child. It has arms and legs, its eyes are open. It's looking at me." He felt hurt, but still he killed them. He looked at each one like this and then killed it, feeling he was doing something bad. His wife was pushing him, saying they wouldn't have anything to eat if he didn't kill frogs. Finally, he couldn't bear it anymore. He would catch them, but wouldn't break their legs like before. Previously, he'd break their legs so they couldn't hop away. Still, he couldn't make himself let them go. "Well, I'm just taking care of them, feeding them here. I'm only raising them. Whatever someone else might do, I don't know about that." But of course he knew. The others were still killing them for food. After a while, he could admit this to himself. "Well, I've cut my bad karma by 50% anyhow. Someone else does the killing." This was starting to drive him crazy, but he couldn't yet let go. He still kept the frogs at home. He wouldn't break their legs anymore, but his wife would. "It's my fault. Even if I don't do it, they do it because of me." Finally, he gave it up altogether. But then his wife was complaining. "What are we going to do? What should we eat?" He was really caught now. When he went to the monastery, the Ajahn lectured him on what he should do. When he returned home, his wife lectured him on what he should do. The Ajahn was telling him to stop doing that, and his wife was egging him on to continue doing so. What to do? What a lot of suffering. Born into this world, we have to suffer like this. In the end, his wife had to let go too, so they stopped killing frogs. He worked in his field, tending his buffaloes. Then he developed the habit of releasing fish and frogs. When he saw a fish caught in the nets, he set them free. Once he went to a friend's house and saw some frogs in a pot, and he set them free. Then his friend's wife came to prepare dinner. She opened the lid of the pot and saw the frogs were gone. They figured out what had happened. It's that guy with a heart of merit. She did manage to catch one frog and made a chili paste with it. They sat down to eat, and as he went to dip his ball of rice in the chili, she said, "Hey, heart of merit, you shouldn't eat that. It's frog chili paste." This was too much. What a lot of grief. Just being alive and trying to feed oneself. Thinking about it, he couldn't see any way out. He was already an old man, so he decided to ordain. He prepared the ordination gear, shaved his head, and went inside the house. As soon as his wife saw his shaved head, she started crying. He pleaded with her, "Since I was born, I haven't had the chance to be ordained. Please give me your blessing to do this. I want to be ordained, but I'll disrobe and return home again." So the wife relented. He was ordained in the local monastery, and after the ceremony, he asked the preceptor what he should do. The preceptor told him, "If you're really doing this seriously, you ought to just go and practice meditation. Follow our meditation master. Don't stay near the houses. He understood and decided to do that. He slept one night in the temple and in the morning took his leave, asking where he could find Ajahn Tongrat. Ajahn Tongrat was a well-known meditation teacher during Ajahn Chah's early years. He shouldered his bowl and wandered off, a new monk who couldn't yet put on his robes very neatly, but he found his way to Ajahn Tongrat. Venerable Ajahn, I have no other aim in life. I want to offer my body and my life to you. Ajahn Tongrat replied, very good, lots of merit. You almost missed me. I was just about to go on my way. So do your prostrations and take a seat there. The new monk asked, now that I'm ordained, what should I do? It happened that they were sitting by an old tree stump. Ajahn Tongrat pointed to it and said, make yourself like this tree stump. Don't do anything else. Just make yourself like this tree stump. He taught him meditation in this way. So Ajahn Tongrat went on his way and the monk stayed there to contemplate his words. Ajahn taught me to make myself like a tree stump. What am I supposed to do? He pondered this continuously, whether walking, sitting, or lying down to sleep. He thought about the stump first being a seed, how it grew into a tree, got bigger and aged, and was finally cut down, leaving just this stump. Now that it's a stump, it won't be growing anymore, and nothing will bloom from it. He kept on pondering in his mind, considering it over and over, till it became his meditation object. He expanded it to apply to all phenomena, and was able to turn it inwards and apply it to himself. After a while, I'm probably going to be like this stump, a useless thing. Realizing this gave him the determination not to disrobe. His mind was made up at this point. He had the conditions which came together to get him to this stage. When the mind is like this, there won't be anything that can stop it. All of us are in the same boat. Please think about this and try to apply it to your practice. Being born as humans is full of difficulties. And it's not just that it's been difficult for us so far. In the future, there will also be difficulty. Young people will grow up, grown-ups will age, aged ones will fall ill, ill people will die. It keeps going on like this. The cycle of ceaseless transformation that never comes to an end. So the Buddha taught us to meditate. In meditation, first we have to practice samadhi, which means making the mind still and peaceful, like water in a basin. If we keep putting things in it and stirring it up, it'll always be murky. If the mind is always allowed to be thinking and worrying over things, we can never see anything clearly. If we let the water in the basin settle and become still, we can see all sorts of things reflected in it. When the mind is settled and still, wisdom will be able to see things. The illuminating light of wisdom surpasses any other kind of light. And what was the Buddha's advice on how to practice? He taught to practice like the earth, practice like the water, practice like fire, practice like wind. Practice like the old things, the things we're already made of, the solid element of earth, the liquid element of water, the warming element of fire, the moving element of wind. If someone digs the earth is not bothered. It can be shoveled, tilled, or watered. Rotten things can be buried in it, but the earth will remain indifferent. Water can be boiled or frozen or used to wash something dirty. It's not affected. Fire can burn beautiful and fragrant things or ugly and foul things. Doesn't matter to the fire. When the wind blows, it blows on all sorts of things, fresh and rotten, beautiful and ugly, without concern. The Buddha used this analogy. The aggregation that is us is merely a coming together of the elements of earth, water, fire, and wind. If you try to find an actual person there, you can't. There are only these collections of elements. But for all of our lives, we never thought to separate them like this, to see what's really there. We've only thought, this is me, that's mine. We've always seen everything in terms of a self, never seeing that there is merely earth, water, fire, and wind. But the Buddha teaches in this way. He taught about the four elements and urges us to see that this is what we are. They're the earth, water, fire, and wind element. There's no person here. Contemplate these elements to see that there is no being or individual, but only earth, water, fire, and wind. It's deep, isn't it? It's hidden deep. People will look, but they can't see this. We're used to contemplating things in terms of self and other all the time. So our meditation is still not very deep. It doesn't reach the truth, and we don't yet get beyond the way these things appear to be. We remain stuck in the conventions of the world, and being stuck in the world means remaining in the cycle of transformation, getting things and losing them, dying and being born and dying, suffering in the realm of confusion. Whatever we wish for and aspire to doesn't really work out the way we want, because we're seeing things wrongly. Our grasping attachments are like this. We're still far, very far from the real path of Dhamma. So, please get to work right now. Don't say, after I'm older, I'll start going to the monastery. What is aging? Young people have aged as well as old people. From birth, they've been aging. We like to say, when I'm older. Hey, young folks are older. Older than they were. This is what aging means. All of you, please take a look at this. We all have this burden. This is a task for all of us to work on. Think about your parents or grandparents. They were born, then they aged, and in the end they passed away. Now we don't know where they've gone. So the Buddha wanted us to seek the Dhamma. This kind of knowledge is what's most important. Any form of knowledge or study that does not agree with the Buddhist way is learning. Any form of knowledge or study that does not agree with the Buddhist way is learning that involves dukkha. Our practice of Dhamma should be getting us beyond suffering. If we can't fully transcend suffering, then we should at least be able to transcend it a little. Now, in the present. For example, when somebody speaks harshly to us, if we don't get angry with them, we've transcended suffering. If we get angry, we've not transcended dukkha. When someone speaks harshly to us, if we reflect on Dhamma, we will see it is just heaps of earth. Okay, he's criticizing me, but he's just criticizing a heap of earth. One heap of earth is criticizing another heap of earth. Water is criticizing water. Wind is criticizing wind. Fire is criticizing fire. But if we really see things in this way, others will probably call us mad. He doesn't care about anything. He has no feelings. When someone dies, we won't get upset and cry, and they'll call us crazy again. Where can we stay? It really has to come down to this. We have to practice to realize for ourselves. Getting beyond suffering does not depend on others' opinions. Getting beyond suffering does not depend on others' opinions of us, but on our own individual state of mind. Never mind what they'll say. We experience the truth for ourselves, then we can dwell at ease. But generally, we don't take it this far. Youngsters will go to the monastery once or twice, then when they go home, their friends make fun of them. Hey, Dhamma Dhammo! They feel embarrassed and don't feel like coming back here again. Some of them have told me that they came here to listen to teachings and gain some understanding, so they stopped drinking and hanging out with the crowd. But their friends belittled them. You go to the monastery and now you don't want to go out drinking with us anymore. What's wrong with you? So they get embarrassed and eventually end up doing the same old things again. It's hard for people to stick to it. So, rather than aspiring too high, let's practice patience and endurance. Exercising patience and restraint in our families is already pretty good. Don't quarrel and fight. If you can get along, you've already transcended suffering for the moment, and that's good. When things happen, recollect Dhamma. Think of what your spiritual guides have taught you. They teach you to let go, to give up, to refrain, put things down. They teach you to strive and to fight in this way to solve your problems. The Dhamma that you come to listen to is just for solving your problems. What kind of problems are we talking about? How about your families? Do you have any problems with your children, your spouses, your friends, your work and other matters? All these things give you a lot of headaches, don't they? These are the problems we're talking about. These teachings are telling you that you can resolve the problems of daily life with Dhamma. We've been born as human beings. It should be possible to live with happy minds. We do our work according to our responsibilities. If things get difficult, we practice endurance. Earning a livelihood in the right way is one sort of Dhamma practice, the practice of ethical living. Living happily and harmoniously like this is already pretty good. But we're usually taking a loss. Don't take a loss. If you come here on the observance day to take the precepts and then go home and fight, that's a loss. Do you hear what I'm saying, folks? It's a loss to do this. It means you don't see the Dhamma even a tiny little bit. There's no profit at all. Please understand this. Now you've listened to the Dhamma for an appropriate length of time today. There you are. This is the 53rd talk in
इसका हिंदी अनुवाद करते हैं। जहाँ से शुरू हुआ आज वहीं से ट्रांसलेशन शुरू करते हैं। ऐसा मैंने नोट किया है कि लोग साधना में पूरे मन से नहीं आते। पिछले वर्षों में मैंने देखा कैसे वो बदलता जा रहा है। जो पुराने समय में जो लोग थे उन्होंने कुछ फायदे साधना के उठाए, लेकिन अब जो दिक्कतों के बारे में सुनते हैं तो लोग घबरा जाते हैं। अगर चीज़ें आसान बना दें तो सब इंटरेस्टेड हैं, लेकिन उससे फ़ायदा क्या होगा? पुराने समय में हम सब लोग इकट्ठे साधना करते थे, इस क्यों पूरे मन से साधना करते थे, इसीलिए हमें लाभ प्राप्त हुआ। जो मॉन्क्स मेरे साथ यहाँ रहते थे उन्होंने कांति को पूरी लिमिट तक ले जाके प्रैक्टिस किया। उन्हें साधना के बारे में समझ भी थी और कई साल साधना करने के बाद मुझे फिर लगा कि उनको बाहर भेजा जा सकता है ताकि वो अपनी मोनास्ट्रीज गांव में बना सकें। आप लोग जो यहाँ देर बाद में आए हो, आप सोच भी नहीं सकते किस तरह की परिस्थितियों में हमने यहाँ रहे हैं। हमारे पास केवल चावल खाने को होता था, कोई कंप्लेंट नहीं करता था, शांति से लोग खाना खाते थे और कभी ये डिस्कस नहीं करते थे कि खाना टेस्टी है या नहीं। और जो हमारा आफ्टरनून का ड्रिंक था वो सिर्फ बोरा पेट, जो कड़वी दवा है, कहते हैं वो शायद गिलोय का पानी होता है। एक हमारा भिक्षु सेंट्रल थाईलैंड में गया और वहाँ कॉफ़ी पी के आया, तो किसी ने उसको यहाँ आने को कहा था, तो एक बार हमें कॉफ़ी मिल गई थी लेकिन चीनी नहीं थी, लेकिन किसी ने कंप्लेन नहीं किया क्योंकि चीनी कहाँ से आती। हम किसी से कुछ मांगते नहीं थे और हम लोगों के आश्रित थे। एक बार हमारे जो उपासक थे मिस्टर पुआंग और मिसेस देंग, वो ऑर्डेन होने के लिए आए। वो शहर से आए थे और इस तरह की कठिनाइयों में कभी नहीं जिए थे। उन्होंने अपने भतीजे से सुना था कि यहाँ पे साधना अच्छी होती है, और जब उन्होंने उपसंपदा ली तो एक दोस्त उनका कॉफ़ी और चीनी लेके आता था। वो यहाँ जंगल में रह रहे थे, लेकिन उनको आदत थी सुबह उठ के चाहे कॉफ़ी और दूध वाली चाय कॉफ़ी पीने की। तो उन्होंने अपना कुटी में चीनी और कॉफ़ी रख ली थी, लेकिन हमारे यहाँ सुबह सुबह चैंटिंग होती थी, ध्यान होता था और उसके बाद भिक्षाटन के लिए जाते थे, तो उनको चाय को मौका ही नहीं मिला कॉफ़ी बनाने का। और भी कठिनाइयों को देख के अंततः उन्होंने लगा कि यहाँ नहीं रह पाएंगे और वो उसी वर्ष डिसरोब हो गए। और जब वो चले गए तब हमें पहली बार यहाँ पे बर्फ मिली, कुछ चीनी मिली, और जो मिसेस डैंग आई थी वो जब वो लोगों के साथ बात करती थी किस तरह हम रहते हैं तो रो पड़ती थी। लोगों को पता नहीं था कि यहाँ पे मेडिटेशन करने वाले मॉन्क किस तरह से रहते हैं। जब हम भिक्षाटन पे जाते थे तो लोग मिर्च की सॉस का एक छोटे से पैकेट बनाते थे और चावल के साथ हमको वो दे देते थे, और जब हम वापस आते थे तो वही जो होता था वो खा लेते थे। टेस्टी है कि नहीं ऐसी कोई चर्चा कभी भी नहीं हुई। ना ही कोई प्लेट्स होती थी, ना ही बॉल होते थे। सब जो भी बॉल्स में आया उसी में खाना खा लिया। कोई यहाँ हमारे को मिलने भी नहीं आता था, और रात को हम अपनी कुटी में चले जाते थे तो बिल्कुल सुनसान हो जाता था, तो कुत्ते भी यहाँ रह नहीं पाते थे, उनको भी डर लगता था। वो भिक्षुओं के साथ जाते थे और भिक्षु पर कुटी में चले जाते थे। तो अंत ऐसी स्थिति थी कि यहाँ कुत्ते भी नहीं रह पाते थे, जैसा हम इतनी एसेटिसिज्म से हम रहते थे। तो ये विचार कभी कभी मुझे बड़ा प्रेरित कर देता था कि शायद अब कुछ ज़्यादा ही एक्सट्रीम हो रहे हैं। कई तरह की दिक्कतें आती थी, बुखार, मृत्यु का सामना हमने सबने किया। कई बार इन कठिनाई परिस्थितियों में मृत्यु का सामना भी करना पड़ा। आजकल की जो परिस्थिति है उसको देखता हूँ तो जमीन आसमान का फर्क है उसमें। बहुत पहले जब थे तो हमारे पास ना प्लेट्स नहीं वगैरह या सब्जी रखने खाना रखने के बाउल नहीं होते थे, सब कुछ भिक्षाटन के बाउल में रख दिया जाता था। अब जब 100 लोग बैठे खाना खा रहे हैं तो 5 लोग तो हमें बाकी के बर्तन धोने के लिए चाहिए होते हैं। तो मुझे समझ नहीं आता ऐसे कैसे काम चलेगा, लेकिन ये मैं आपके ऊपर छोड़ देता हूँ कि आपको क्या करना है ऐसी स्थिति में। जो लोग कंप्लेन करना चाहते हैं उनको तो हमेशा कोई ना कोई कंप्लेन करने का मौका मिल जाता है, चाहे कितनी भी अच्छी कंडीशन हो कम ना हो। कभी कभी मैं सुनता हूँ उनकी बातें, वो उस एरिया में जाएंगे टूडांग पे तो बड़ा अच्छा है, वहाँ तो बहुत अच्छा खाना मिलता है, बड़ी बड़ी मछलियाँ मिलती हैं, वो इस तरह की बातें करते हैं। तो सचमुच भोजन की चाह में इतने डूबे हुए हैं, मन उनका संयमित नहीं है। और इस तरह के लोगों को जान के लिए ऐसे लोगों को सिखा पाना बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाता है। रूप, शब्द, गंध, रस, ये हमारी धम्मा प्रैक्टिस के समाज को बिगाड़ने की चीज़ें हैं। अगर हम उनके प्रति ठीक से अपने जो हमारे 4 रिक्विजिट्स हैं, चीवर, भोजन, रहने की स्थान और दवाइयाँ, उसके बारे में अगर अच्छी तरह से हम विचार विमर्श नहीं करते, कॉन्टेम्पलेट नहीं करते, तो भगवान का शासन ठीक से नहीं चल पाएगा। आप देख सकते हैं कितनी भी भौतिक प्रगति हुई है संसार में, लेकिन दुख बढ़ते ही चले गए हैं। इसलिए मैं कहता हूँ कि जब आप किसी मोनेस्ट्री में जाते हैं तो वहाँ टेम्पल तो देखते हैं लेकिन बुद्ध शासन नहीं देखते, क्योंकि लोग उस शासन के अनुसार रह नहीं रहे हैं। शासन का अर्थ होता है कि जो भगवान की डायरेक्ट टीचिंग है और सत्य और उजू चित्त इंटीग्रिटी से रहना, मैत्री का भाव रखना सब दूसरों के प्रति, ये सब चीज़ें आजकल के उहापोह में खो गई हैं। जो मेरे साथ साधना करते थे उन्होंने अभी भी अपनी साधना उसी तन्मयता से करते हैं 25 साल बाद भी, लेकिन जो अब नए लोग आते हैं मुझे नहीं लगता वो उससे गहराई से गंभीरता से साधना करते हैं। उनको ये लगता है कि ये तो अति हो गई, हम तो अपने शरीर को कष्ट दे रहे हैं। चाहे हम साधना में प्रैक्टिस में स्किल हो चाहे नहीं हो, अगर शरीर बहुत ज़्यादा मोटा हो जाएगा, कंफर्टेबल हो जाएगा, तो मन तो बेचैन रहेगा ही। मैं पहले बात करता था कम खाओ, कम सो, कम बोलो, तो भिक्षुओं को समझ में आती थी। अब इस तरह की बात भिक्षुओं को पसंद नहीं आती। हम यही कहते हैं कि हम अपना रास्ता निकाल लेंगे, काहे को हम इतना परेशान हों और अपने को कष्ट दें। ये भगवान बुद्ध का तरीका नहीं है। और जैसे ही कोई एक भिक्षु ऐसी बात करता है, बाकी सब एग्री हो मान जाते हैं, सब के सब भोजन से त्रस्त हैं। वो क्या कह सकता हूँ मैं अब उनको। तो आप सब लोग अपना मन तैयार करो। आप यहाँ अलग अलग ब्रांच मोनेस्ट्री से आए हो, अपने मुझे जो तुम्हारे आचार्य हैं उनको आदर दें प्रकट करने के लिए, तो इसलिए तुम्हारी साधना के बारे में मैं कुछ बता रहा हूँ। अपने आचार्य को आदर देना बहुत अच्छी बात है, और जब सच्चा आदर होता है तो लोगों में आपस में सामंजस्य रहता है, आपस में झगड़ा नहीं करते। तो एक और उदाहरण देते हैं कि शहर के लोग जो है मशरूम खाना चाहते हैं, उनको लोग पूछते हैं कहाँ से मशरूम आते हैं, तो लोग कहते हैं हाँ ज़मीन में पैदा होते हैं। तो बास्केट लेके घूमने निकलते हैं गांव में, कहीं शायद मशरूम मिल जाएंगे सड़क पे पड़े हुए, लेकिन ऐसे तो मशरूम नहीं मिलते। जो गांव वाला उसको मालूम है कहाँ मशरूम मिलते हैं, वहाँ जाके वो ले आता है, किस जंगल के किस एरिया में मशरूम होते हैं। लेकिन शहर वालों को कुछ मालूम नहीं है, अनुभव नहीं है। और मन को ट्रेन करना समाधि के लिए बिल्कुल ऐसा ही है। हमको आइडिया है कि ऐसा हो जाता है कि बड़ा आसान है, लेकिन जब बैठते हैं तो इधर दर्द उधर दर्द, हम थक जाते हैं और फिर हतोत्साहित होकर छोड़ते हैं, तो बहुत मुश्किल है। तो जब आप यहाँ समाधि का लोग आप प्रयास करने जो आए हैं तो डिफिकल्टी तो आएगी ही। जब मैंने साधना का अभ्यास शुरू किया था अजान के साथ, तो मुझे भी बहुत दिक्कत आई थी। मैं बैठता था और थोड़ी देर में आँख खोलता था, लेकिन देखता था अजान तो आँख बंद करके ही बैठे हैं, 1 घंटा हो गया, 2 घंटा हो गया, अजान तो हिलते नहीं थे और मेरे को बहुत कष्ट होता था। तो इसलिए समाधि का जब समय आता था तो मैं डरा रहता था। तो जब शुरू में अभ्यास करते हैं तो ऐसा होना स्वाभाविक है, लेकिन प्रयास करते रहेंगे तो आगे बढ़ ही जाएंगे। बार बार अभ्यास करेंगे तो धीरे धीरे रास्ता स्पष्ट हो जाएगा। ये तो ऐसा ही है जैसे जंगल में एक रास्ता बनाना है, शुरू में कष्ट होता है, लेकिन बाद में बार जब हम करते हैं तो रास्ता साफ हो जाता है। इसी तरह से मन को भी ट्रेन करना होता है। जब गांव के लोग चावल खाते हैं और मछली खाते हैं, जो धर्म की बात सुनने आते हैं तो उनसे कहा जाता है कि ये सब काम करना छोड़ दो, प्राणियों की हत्या मत करो, तो बड़े परेशानी में आ जाते हैं। टीचर हमको कह रहे हैं कि प्राणियों की हत्या मत करो, मत खाओ, तो हम क्या करें? हम तो हमारा तो सारा मार्केटिंग खेतों में है, हम अपने आप को कैसे भोजन देंगे? खेत और जंगल ही हमारे लिए भोजन का साधन है, तो हम पशुओं को पकड़ते हैं, मारते हैं और खाते हैं। ये बात मैं कई सालों से लोगों को समझाने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि जो आप पैदा करते हैं वो आप खाते हैं, लेकिन सब लोग ऐसा नहीं करते। जो दर्जी है वो कपड़ा नहीं खाता, जो माचिस बनाने वाला है वो माचिस नहीं खाता, और जो चीज़ें हैं जो हम घर में इस्तेमाल करते हैं वो सब की सब अपने आप नहीं बनाते। जो बाउल है आप खुद नहीं बनाते, कैसे लाते हो? आप पैसे इकट्ठे करते हो और खरीद के लाते हो। तो कई चीज़ें ऐसी हैं जो हम नहीं जानते, लेकिन हम अगर उचित धन कमाएंगे तो उनको खरीद सकते हैं। अपनी बुद्धि का अपने इस्तेमाल करना चाहिए ताकि हम गलत काम ना कर सकें, भगवान बुद्ध की शिक्षा पे चलें। एक बार एक संत को मैंने काफ़ी सिखाया था। वो एक उपासक थे जो प्रैक्टिस करने आए थे और शील का पालन करना चाहते थे, लेकिन फिर वो मछली मारने के लिए चले जाते थे। मैं उनको सिखाता गया और उन्होंने कहा नहीं मैं मछली को मारता थोड़ा ना हूँ, मछलियाँ मेरे हुक के अंदर आ जाती हैं, तो मैं क्या करूँ? बार उसको सिखाता गया तो रेशनलाइजेशन, फिर उसने कहा कि मैं अब तो कहता हूँ मछलियों को भाई जिनका कर्म पूरे हो गए हैं वही आए मेरे मछली हुक में अंदर आए। तो वो कहता मैंने तो नहीं कहा, मैंने तो उनसे कहा था मत आओ, वो फिर भी आ रही हैं। अंततः उसको समझ में आ गया कि ये बात तो अल्टीमेटली तो मछलियाँ मेरे कारण ही मर रही हैं, और धीरे धीरे उसने समझ जैसे आया तो उन्होंने वो छोड़ दिया। और फिर वो मेंढक खाने की बात थी, कहने लगा मेंढक नहीं खाऊंगा तो मैं मारूंगा तो खाऊंगा क्या? तो मैंने उनसे कहा कि तुम उसको पकड़ के हाथ में जरा ध्यान से देखो तो सही। तो जब उसने पकड़ के हाथ में देखा तो उसकी आंखें, छोटे छोटे हाथ, छोटी टांग कहता रही तो मेरे छोटे बच्चे ऐसा लगता है। तो बहुत दुख हुआ, लेकिन पहले तो फिर भी दुख होने के बावजूद भी उसने मार दिया उसको और खाया, क्योंकि उसको खाने के लिए और कुछ नहीं था। लेकिन अंततः उस धीरे धीरे बार देखने से उसको मन बदल के पसीज गया और फिर उसने वो भी खाना भी छोड़ दिया। अब दिक्कत ये कि उसकी पत्नी उससे कहे कि जाके मार के लाओ, खाएंगे क्या, और अजान कहे कि मत मारो, तो बड़ी मुश्किल में फंस गया। तो अंततः धीरे धीरे उनकी पत्नी के भी वो बात समझ में आ गई और उसकी आदत हो गई कि जब कहीं भी वो मछलियां और मेंढक अपने जाल में देखता था तो उनको छोड़ देता था। एक बार वो किसी अपने दोस्त के यहाँ खाना खाने गया तो वहाँ देखा एक बर्तन में मेंढक पड़े हैं, तो उसने उठा के सारे छोड़ दिए। और जब पत्नी उनको बनाने के लिए आई खाने के लिए तो देखा कुछ नहीं है। उसने कहा अच्छा तो ये है हमारे मैत्री चित्त वाले लोग। तो अंततः ये उसके साथ बहुत ज़्यादा हुआ तो परेशान हो गया। उसने कहा कि अब मैं मॉडर्निक हो जाता हूँ, भिक्षु बन जाता हूँ। और उसने हाथ अपने सिर मुंडवा के जाने लगा था। तो कहने लगा पत्नी से कि मुझे जाने की अनुमति दे दो, मेरा बहुत मन है। तो एक लोकल मोनेस्ट्री में जाके भिक्षु बने और वहाँ पे उन्होंने कहा कि हाँ तुमको साधना करनी है, ध्यान से अगर सचमुच आगे बढ़ना है तो ध्यान करना होगा। तो फिर उन्होंने अजान तोंगराट को रास्ता ढूंढा कि वो बहुत मशहूर वहाँ के अजान थे। तो उनके बाद जाके कहा कि मेरा जीवन में कोई और उद्देश्य नहीं है, मैं आपको समर्पित हूँ। तोंगराट ने उनको फिर सिखाया, समझाया कि तुम ऐसा करो जैसे यहाँ पे कटा हुआ पेड़ पड़ा है जिनका बिल्कुल टूट हो गया है, तुम इसी को देखते रहो और इसी तरह से अपने आप को बना लो। तो अजान तोंगराट तो चले गए। तो ये सज्जन अपने सोचते रहे इसका क्या मतलब है। और अंततः धीरे बार बार विचार करते करते उनको समझ में आया कि जैसे ये अब टूट बन गया, ऐसे कुछ नहीं पैदा हो सकता, दोबारा नहीं बनेगा। इसी तरह मुझे भी अपने आप को वैसा ही बना लेना चाहिए ताकि मैं अपनी तरफ से सोचा कि मैं भी धीरे धीरे जैसे बूढ़ा होऊंगा इसी तरह से बन जाऊंगा। तो मुझे अपनी साधना ठीक से करते रहना चाहिए। तो इस तरह से उनका मन काफ़ी तैयार हो गया साधना को गंभीरता से करने के लिए। क्योंकि जब मन ऐसे तैयार हो जाता है तो फिर कोई उसको रोक नहीं सकता। तो अजान ने फिर भिक्षुओं से कहा कि आप इस पर विचार करिए और देखिए कि आप इसी तरह से प्रैक्टिस कर सकते हैं। ये तो आप सब मानेंगे कि जो यंग हैं वो धीरे धीरे बड़े होंगे, बड़े होकर बूढ़े होंगे, बूढ़े होंगे बीमार होंगे, बीमार होकर मरेंगे। क्या यही चक्र हमारा हमेशा चलता रहेगा? तो भगवान बुद्ध ने हमको सिखाया था इस चक्र से मुक्ति के लिए ध्यान करना, पहले समाधि का अभ्यास करना, शांत चित्त को शांत करना, और फिर उसके शांत चित्त के आधार पे एनालिटिकल इन्वेस्टिगेशन करके चित्त की जो बुराइयां, जो विकार हैं, उनको निकालना। और उन्हें कैसे हमको प्रैक्टिस करना कहा? उन्होंने कहा कि जैसे पृथ्वी है, जल है, अग्नि है, वायु है, वैसे प्रैक्टिस करना चाहिए। कोई अगर धरती खोदता है तो और धरती नाराज नहीं होती, और उसको पानी डालता है, गंदी चीज़ें भी डालता है, तो भी धरती इंडिफरेंट रहती है। पानी को अगर आप बॉयल करें या फ्रीज करें या उसको किसी गंदी चीज़ को साफ करने में लगाएं, उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता। अग्नि जो है सुंदर चीज़ हो चाहे बदबूदार हो, सबको एक जैसा जला देती है। वायु जो है हर चीज़ पे, चाहे सुगंधित हो चाहे दुर्गंध हो, सुंदर हो चाहे बदसूरत हो, सबके ऊपर एक जैसी बहती है। तो उन्होंने कहा कि भगवान बुद्ध ने इसी तरह की एनालॉजी यूज़ की थी कि जो हम हैं, हम भी अग्नि, वायु, जल, पृथ्वी से बने हुए हैं। यही सबका समुच्चय अब हम हैं। तो ये कहना कब तक ठीक होगा कि ये मैं हूँ, ये मेरी, मैं हूँ, ये मेरा है। हम हर चीज़ को आत्मभाव से देखते हैं, लेकिन समझते नहीं कि वास्तव में केवल पृथ्वी, जल, अग्नि, वायु है। तो भगवान बुद्ध ने इस तरह से हमें 4 धातुओं की बात सिखाई थी कि यहाँ कोई प्राणी, मनुष्य नहीं है, ये सिर्फ धातुएं हैं जिनको हम नाम दे देते हैं। ये काफ़ी गहरी बात है, इसको गंभीरता से विचार करने पे ही समझ आती है। कभी हमारी ध्यान इतना विचार गहरा नहीं है तो कभी कभी ये पकड़ में नहीं आता। और हमारे जो आसक्तियां हैं वो हमारे को खींच के रखती हैं, इसलिए सत्य धर्म के मार्ग से हम काफ़ी दूर हैं। तो अब कोशिश करो अपने आप को सुधारने की। ये मत सोचो कि जब अब मैं बूढ़ा हो गया हूँ, अभी मोनेस्ट्री शुरू करूंगा। ये बुढ़ापा क्या होता है? सभी लोग बूढ़े होंगे, जन्म से ही हम बूढ़े होते जा रहे हैं। तो ये बात कहना कि जब मैं बूढ़ा हो जाऊंगा तब मैं ये करूंगा, ऐसा मत सोचो। सभी लोग बूढ़े हैं, एक तरह से होते जा रहे हैं। तो इसलिए इस तरह की बातों से इसलिए ऐसा समझो कि ये जो बुढ़ापा है एक तरह का बोझ है जो हम सबको ढोना है। आप ये देखो अपने अपने पेरेंट्स और ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स के बारे में सोचो, वे भी पैदा हुए थे, बूढ़े हुए और चल बसे, हमें मालूम नहीं कहाँ है। तो भगवान बुद्ध इसलिए हमको धम्म सिखाना चाहते थे, जो कि बहुत महत्वपूर्ण ज्ञान है। बाकी सब ज्ञान दुख ही बढ़ाते हैं, केवल धर्म का ज्ञान ही दुख से मुक्ति दिलाता है। जब कोई आपसे कड़वी बात कहे तो आप अगर धम्म ठीक से समझेंगे तो कहेंगे इसमें एक मिट्टी का ढेला दूसरी मिट्टी के ढेले को क्रिटिसाइज कर रहा है, एक धातुओं का पुंज दूसरे धातुओं के पुंज को क्रिटिसाइज कर रहा है, तो फिर उसमें द्वेष नहीं जागेगा। अगर हम सचमुच में इस तरह से देखने लगे तो हमें कोई भी चीज़ उद्वेलित नहीं कर पाएगी, कोई भी चीज़ हमें हमारी क्षमता को हिला नहीं पाएगी। तो इस तरह से हमको साधना करनी चाहिए। हमारे दुख से मुक्ति किसी और पे ओपिनियन पे किसी और के ऊपर नहीं डिपेंड करती, हमारे अपने मन की स्थिति पे डिपेंड करती है। लेकिन हम प्राय इस डेप्थ तक साधना को नहीं ले जा सकते। कई यंग लोग मोनेस्ट्री में आते हैं एक दो बार तो उनके दोस्त उनका मजाक उड़ाने लगते हैं, उसको धम्मो धम्मो कहने लगते हैं। वो बेचारे एम्बेरस हो जाते हैं, आगे से आते ही नहीं है। कोई आता है तो उसने शराब पीनी छोड़ दी तो लोग उससे कहते हैं, अरे मोनेस्ट्री जाता है और शराब नहीं पिएगा तो कैसे जिएगा, चलो क्या तुम्हारे साथ क्या गड़बड़ हो गई है। तो फिर एम्बेरस हो जाता है, फिर वही काम करने लगता है। तो इसलिए बहुत ऊंची ध्येय न रख के इतना ही रखो कि हम पेशेंस का और शांति और धैर्य का अभ्यास करेंगे, इंद्रियों पर संवर करना सीखेंगे। यही अपने में काफी है कि आप घर जाके झगड़ा मत करो। जब भी कुछ हो धम्म को दोबारा याद करो और उसको अपना गाइड बनाओ, ताकि अपने घर की जो परेशानियां हैं, जो अपने बच्चों से, स्पाउस से, मित्रों से, काम से, वो परेशानियां दूर हो सकें। भगवान बुद्ध की शिक्षा इसी तरह के दुख को दूर करने के लिए है। हम मनुष्य लोग जीवन में आए हैं तो हम सबको प्रसन्नचित्त से रहना सीखना चाहिए, अपने उत्तरदायित्व को निभाना सीखना चाहिए। एक अच्छी तरह से आजीविका कमाना ठीक तरह से, वो भी एक तरह की धम्म प्रैक्टिस ही है, ताकि हम शीलवान जीवन जी सकें। लेकिन कई लोग दुर्भाग्य से उसको भी नुकसान में बना देते हैं। हम एक दिन यहाँ आके उपस्थित के दिन शील लेते हैं और फिर घर जाके झगड़ा करते हैं, तो जो यहाँ पाया वो वहाँ खो दिया। ऐसा ना करें। तो अगर आप ऐसा करते हैं इसका मतलब आपको धर्म थोड़ा सा भी समझ में नहीं आया। कृपया इसको ध्यान से समझें, और अब धम्म से सुना है तो उसको लंबे समय तक याद रखें। तो धम्म विहारों का अभ्यास फुल मेत्ता चांट से करते हैं। कई बार हम कर चुके हैं तो इसलिए मैं चांट करता रहूँगा, थोड़ा थोड़ा रुकता जाऊँगा अप्रोप्रिएट प्लेस पे, और हम अपने मन को उसी अनुरूप ढालते हुए शरीर में और मन में क्या हो रहा है उसको जानते हुए, मन में वो ब्रह्म विहार का विचार करते हुए और शरीर पे उसका जो असर हो रहा है उसको रेडिएट करेंगे, ताकि संक्षेप में चारों ब्रह्म विहारों का अभ्यास हो सके। अवेरोमि अव्यापञ्जोमि अनिगोमि सुखी अत्तानं परिहरामि मम माता पितु आचार्या च ज्ञातिमित्ता च सब्रह्मचारिणो च अविराहोन्तु अव्यापज्याहोन्तु अनिगाहोन्तु सुखी अत्तानं परिहरन्तु। आरक्षा देवता भूमट्ठा देवता रुक्खट्ठा देवता आकाशट्ठा देवता अविराहोन्तु अव्यापज्याहोन्तु अनिगाहोन्तु सुखी अत्तानं परिहरन्तु। सब्बे सत्ता सब्बे पाना सब्बे भूता सब्बे पुंगला सब्बे अत्ता भाव परियापन्ना सब्बा इत्थियो सब्बे पुरिसा सब्बे अरिया सब्बे अनरिया अवेरा सब्बे सब्बे देवा सब्बे मनुष्या सब्बे विनिपातिका अविराहोन्तु अव्यापज्याहोन्तु अनिगाहोन्तु सुखी अत्तानं परिहरन्तु। मैत्री के बाद करुणा भाव। दुःखामुच्यन्तु और फिर मुदिता यथा लब्धा संपत्तितो मा विगच्छन्तु। और अंत में उपेक्षा भावना कम्मस्य का कम्मदायादा कम्मयोनि कम्मबन्धु कम्मपटिसरण यं कम्मं करिष्यन्ति कल्याणं वा पापकं वा तस्य दायादा भविष्यन्ति। और अभी इसी ऑर्डर में सभी दिशाओं को प्राप्त करने के लिए we'll do chanting। पूर्वोत्तमाय का मतलब होता है ईस्ट दिशा, पश्चिमाय तो पश्चिम हो गई, पूर्वोत्तमाय पूर्व दिशा हो गई, उत्तर भी ठीक है, दक्षिण भी ठीक है, और फिर अनुदिशाय का मतलब उन दोनों के बीच की दिशा है। हेठी माया नीचे की दिशा, ऊपरी माया ऊपर की दिशा। पूर्वोत्तमाया दिशाया पश्चिमाया दिशाया उत्तराया दिशाया दक्षिणाया दिशाया पूर्वोत्तमाया अनुदिशाया पश्चिमाया अनुदिशाया उत्तराया अनुदिशाया दक्षिणाया अनुदिशाया हेठी माया दिशाया उपरि माया दिशाया सब्बे सत्ता सब्बे पाना सब्बे भूता सब्बे पुंगला सब्बे अत्ता भाव परियापन्ना सब्बा इत्थियो सब्बे पुरुषा Sabbe Ariya, Sabbe Anariya, Sabbe Deva, Sabbe Manussa, Sabbe Vinipatika, Avira Hontu, Avyapanja Hontu, Aninga Hontu, Sukhi Attanang Pariharantu. Dukkhamuccantu. Thalanda sampattito ma vingaccantu. Kammasya ka, kammadayada, kammayoni, kammabandhu, kammapatisarana, yam kammam karistanti kalyanam va tukam va tasya dayada bhavisanti. अब पूरे ब्रह्मांड को व्याप्त करते हुए भवाग्र से लेकर अविच्छिन्न तक सभी प्राणी जो पृथ्वी पे चलते हैं, जो पानी में चलते हैं, जो आकाश में चलते हैं, सबके प्रति मैत्री और करुणा। उद्धम याव भवग्गा च अधो याव अविच्छितो समन्ता चक्रवालेषु ये सत्ता पृथ्वी चरा अव्यापज्जा निवेरा च निर्दुःखा च अनुपद्रवा उद्धम याव भवग्गा च अधो याव अविच्छितो समन्ता चक्रवालेषु ये सत्ता उदके चरा अव्यापज्जा निवेरा च निर्दुःखा च अनुपद्रवा उद्धम याव भवग्गा च अधो याव अविच्छितो समन्ता चक्रवालेषु ये सत्ता आकाशे चरा अव्यापज्जा निवेरा च निर्दुःखा च अनुपद्रवा भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता सर्वबुद्धानुभावेन सदा सुखी भवन्तु ते भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता सर्वसंधर्मानुभावेन सदा सुखी भवन्तु ते भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता सर्वसंघानुभावेन सदा सुखी भवन्तु ते। अरहं सम्मा सम्बुद्धो भगवा बुद्धं भगवन्तं अभिवादे साक्षातो भगवता धम्मं नमस्सामि
सुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संघो संघं नमामि. नमस्कार सबको.